If God wants to speak to humanity, how does he do it? Well, let's talk about it today on 3-Minute Theology. In our last episode, we said that God still wants to speak to us. And I encourage you to watch that video first, then come back to this one. Not until recent years has there been any question that God still speaks. Some of that tension likely surrounds the ways that God speaks. So let's talk about that today. There are at least 8 ways God has spoken to humanity that I want to share with you today. Now, you could probably add more to this list, but these are ways I've found God to speak. Number 1, God speaks through creation. Check out Psalm 19, 1-6, or Romans 1:20. That verse in Romans actually says that humanity is held accountable to believe in a creator because of his creation. Number 2, God speaks through our conscience. Our conscience is the component of our spirit where we determine right from wrong. It's where our sense of morality is developed. Look at Romans 2:14-15. There are some things that we innately know are right and wrong, even as children. Number 3, God speaks through circumstances. For some examples, check out Acts 16, 6-7 and Matthew 10, 11-14. God can use circumstances in our lives to guide and direct us. Number 4, God speaks through signs, wonders, dreams, and visions. Now, we see many examples of these, especially in the Old Testament, like in Judges 6, 36-40, but also in the New Testament. You can look at Acts 10, 9-16. And now when we hear about people experiencing things like this, many people are critical and suspicious, which is likely due to ways they've seen this abused. But for me personally, I try to approach stories like this with an open mind. I'd rather be curious than critical. Number 5, God speaks through people. God will bring Christian people like mentors, pastors, coaches, and close relationships into our life to speak words of wisdom. It's one of the reasons it matters who you surround yourself with. Consider how Acts 2:17 and 1 Peter 4:10-11 refer to how believers can speak the words of God. Number 6, God speaks through the Bible. 2 Timothy 3:16 says that all scripture is inspired by God and is useful to teach us what is true, to make us realize what is wrong in our lives. It corrects us when we're wrong and teaches us to do what is right. This is why we need the Bible. It's the lens that we run everything through to discern whether we've heard God or not. Number 7, God speaks through our thoughts. Not only that, but the Bible tells us that sometimes God even speaks audibly. Consider Isaiah 30:21 or 1 Corinthians 2:16. Now, this is likely where some people have issues with the idea of God speaking. However, it's important to state that what we feel like God speaks to our heart and that still small voice the Bible talks about in 1 Kings 19 will never contradict the Bible. In fact, if you want to know what God sounds like, read the Bible. He sounds like the book he wrote. In John 10:27, Jesus says that his followers can know his voice. This is one area I think we can grow in, and we'll talk more about how to recognize God's voice in another episode. Lastly, number 8, God speaks through his son, Jesus. God's love is revealed and communicated to us in the person of Jesus Christ. Look at John 14 and Hebrews 1, 1-4. Jesus reveals God's character and his love toward us. If you want to know what God thinks about you, look at Jesus. He laid his life down for us so that we could have a relationship with God. Well, that's all for this 3-Minute Theology. Until next time.